Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Renee. I like to read books and then talk about them on the internet. Welcome to a new video. I'm sat here, my cup of tea. The weather is absolutely foul outside, but it's Friday. I've had a busy week and I have no plans, so I thought I would do this video. I haven't really had a lot of brain capacity or physical time to read or think about books all that much in the last couple of weeks. The most I've been able to do is listen to stuff on audio while I fall asleep, which I don't know if that even counts. Maybe like a couple of weeks ago I was tagged in a Bookstagram post actually by the lovely Jess Decker on Instagram. She did a little quarterly check-in post, and I thought that's a good idea for a video. You all know I love to kind of set goals, set intentions, think about little challenges I could do, and I've definitely set some pretty ambitious ones this year, so I feel like checking in, seeing how we're tracking was a good plan. Let's get into the tag. The first prompt question thing is, how many books have you read? I have read 27 books so far, which is, so far we're going good. We're tracking along. How many books have you rated 5-star? 4 books. I've given 4 books 5-star. And they are Loiter in a Turf War by Coco Solid. Loved it. First 5-star book of the year. You can go watch a reading vlog on that one. Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid. Women Talking by Miriam Toews. And Beloved by Toni Morrison. Amazing lineup, right? Feel very, very happy looking at that little list of 5-star books so far. This wasn't a question, but I thought I'd just throw it in there. What's your average star rating so far? And mine is 3.74. I'm really digging the 0.75 star rating application that they have in Storygraph, because sometimes something isn't quite a 3.5, but isn't quite a 4. So 3.75 is like a nice rating that I'm really enjoying giving out this year. My favourite book so far this year, I think I have to say Loiter in a Turf War by Coco Solid. It was my first 5-star. It's written by a Māori New Zealand writer. It tells the story of 3 friends living in Auckland. It's hilarious, it's relatable, it talks about serious topics in this very comical way that I think is something that I recognize from growing up and my school days and stuff like that. So it just felt fresh and a new type of story that I hadn't read before, but also just like extremely nostalgic and familiar. It had multimedia aspects to it. It brought forward a lot of really interesting questions, I think, around colonization and gentrification in this country specifically, and it was just great to read something like that. So yeah, so far, favourite book of the year. My least favourite book of the year was probably a tie between The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa and The Book of Goose by Yiyun. Yeah, I think equally both those books were just like, Yiyun's Book of Goose was quite disappointing to me because I had high expectations, because so many people have spoken about that book and said how much they love it. And I just found it so underdeveloped for the number of pages that it has. The characters just didn't feel like they had any depth to them, and like I said in my wrap-up, it just felt like an Elena Ferrante ripoff and not a very good one. So yeah, that's probably my biggest disappointment. I think The Housekeeper and the Professor was a book that I was reading for like a AI challenge, and I wasn't so disappointed because I didn't pick the book for myself. It was like a robot picked it and it didn't work, so I just kind of think of that as like a nothing. It just wasn't for me. So yeah, we'll have to go with the Book of Goose, but also the Housekeeper and the Professor was pretty boring. What was the longest book I read in the first quarter? Frantumaglia by Elena Ferrante at 400 pages. Yeah, it was a big book, but it did not feel big. Definitely was extremely just readable and entertaining and fun to get inside her mind and to hear from her. What was the shortest book you read? Simple Passion by Ernaux at a teeny tiny 56 pages. Honestly, that book was so good. I love a short book, and I especially love when a short book is able to blow me away in so few pages. And I mean, the two books that I've read of Annie Ernaux so far have been very short but very impactful, so the lady knows how to write. What are some honourable mentions? Whereabouts by Jhumpa Lahiri. I really enjoyed that book. It's one of those ones that the more that I've thought about it, the more I enjoyed it. It's a quiet story about a woman contemplating her life, her career, and she's just going about her daily life, kind of describing things. It's very much like a people watching quiet novel. What we talk about when we talk about love by Raymond Carver, really great short story collection. Again, that talks about kind of the mundane daily lives of Pacific Northwest, that's right. That type of character and the ways that they kind of are letting life happen to them in these very sad but predictable and just recognizable ways. It's just steeped in sadness that is so common, which makes it even sadder. The writing was so sparse and so minimal, but he was able to infuse so much into it, and it was just very impressive, and I really enjoyed it in the end. Sunbathing by Isobel Beech. That was a really great book. I really enjoyed the way that it kind of depicted grief for this young woman who isn't quite sure how she should feel about the death of her father and the ways that she feels responsible and this kind of wave of emotion that she goes through, and her decision to try to escape that and go to Italy and be with her best friend, and that almost acting as a real healing part of her grief was just so beautiful, so beautifully written. Really loved that one as well. And then Post-Colonial Love Poems by Natalie Diaz. That was a really impactful poetry collection that speaks about Natalie Diaz's indigeneity and the ways that it's celebrated through her writing, the ways that she feels connected to nature. It was a very timely read for me. Came at the right exact time when I was going through some stuff, and it was just the right kind of antidote to that tough time that I was having. So those are my honorable mentions. Biggest moods were, and I think always are, reflective, emotional, and dark. Those are always the books that I just end up reading, and I can't help it. It's the way I am, okay? Cool, so those are all the questions for the tag. But I thought also while we're here that I would check in with the various reading challenges that I've given myself this year. I've done a 23 books for 2023 challenge. I made one on Storygraph because I was like, I want to be able to track it. Also made a video about those books and what I chose for that. If you want to go watch that, I'll put a link up top. And so far I've read 8 books. This is like the whole year so far. I haven't tracked this in the quarter, but we're at 35%, which is, I think, good. I mean, 2 books a month so far is good. It's what we want to be at. So feeling good about it. I feel like I can definitely be reaching for those books more to try to like get a little ahead of it, but I'm quite happy with how I'm going at the moment. So yeah. And then of course I have my Rachel Cusk reading challenge, which was to finish Rachel Cusk's catalogue of work that I hadn't already read, and I just so happened to have 12 books to read in the year for her, so that's 1 book a month, and so far I've read 3. So we're at 25%. I need to read 1 this month to keep tracking, so I do plan on doing that. I mean, so far with that challenge, it's not looking great. I've read 2 of her early fiction books, and they've just been like, meh, for me. I did read Medea though, and absolutely loved that. Definitely be talking about that in my wrap up, but so far proving to be a challenge to want to pick up a Rachel Cusk. But I'm going to read this next with Nathan from Nathan's Nook, so I'm hoping that this will heal me. Finally, I have an overall yearly reading goal of trying to read 100 books, which I am so determined to do this year that I am being very, not rigid, but I'm definitely like making myself ambitious TBRs to try to get through books this year, which I feel kind of good about. Like I can be a mood reader in the sense that I could spend 3 weeks deciding what book to read, and would end up reading like the first few pages of a book and then picking up another one. Like that's how much of a mood reader I can be if I let myself, but that will honestly get me nowhere. Like I'll read no books and have started about 500, but I just find that sometimes I do need a little bit of like a restriction, so I just kind of pick out 10 or so books each month that I want to feel like I would want to read, that is enough kind of variation to choose from and kind of have variety in it, and it's been working so far, so very grateful for that. And it's meant that I am so far at 36%. I've read 36 books this year, which is definitely ahead of the goal. According to Storygraph, I am 6 books ahead of my reading challenge, which feels like a nice buffer to have there. There's bound to be a time this year that I fall into a reading slump and read nothing for like 3 weeks, and those 6 books will come in handy, I think. So that's the video. It was that plain and simple. Just wanted to check in, see how we're tracking, tell you some numbers, and get back into reading this weekend. Yeah, I'm gonna start Rachel Cusk. I'm gonna start my book club pick. Oh, I'm always dropping shit. Book club pick and Rachel Cusk this weekend, and maybe try and finish a digital arc that I have that I've been reading for like 3 weeks. Yeah, that's the plan. If I could finish those books before the end of the month, I'll be happy. Anything else I wanted to talk about? I don't think so. I think that was it. Okay, thank you for watching this video, and let me know how you've been tracking so far this year. What has been your favourite book so far in this first quarter? What has been the most surprising? I'll see you next time. Ka kite. Have a nice weekend. Love you. Bye-bye.